Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we'll be continuing our series on Is This Spirit For You? In this video, we'll be focusing on the Serpent slumbering beneath the island. Setup is going to be one presence on your starting board in land number 5. The playstyle is, there are several ways to play Serpent, but all require patience. Early game involves slowly building up power and presence. It's not helpless during this time, but it isn't as effective as other spirits. It becomes incredibly powerful after awakening, but getting there requires a lot of time. Make sure to use Absorb Essence before you run up against your presence cap, and to get other players buy-in before using Absorb Essence on their presence. So, it is a high complexity spirit, summary of powers, extremely high utility, decent amount of defense, less fear, less control, and less offense. And I think this is pretty accurate, especially looking at the spirit in the early game. So flipping the spirit board over, we have the Deep Slumber track. It says that you're limited based on the number of presents that you can place on the board. And you're limited by this cap here. Whenever you use your Absorb Essence, you're going to put a presence on this Deep Slumber track. And this is going to indicate how many presents you're allowed on the island. You don't have any Absorbed Essence here. You only can place a maximum of 5 presents on the island. If you have Absorbed once, it is 7, twice, then it's 8, and you guys get the point. Looking at our growth options, we are a pick 2 spirit. We have a reclaim, move a presence. We have gain a power card and an energy. We have gain 4 energy, and then we have place a presence in a land without blight. This is basically a 1/1/1 spirit. You want to be placing presence as much as you can, and then you're either going to be reclaiming or gaining this energy from G4. Looking at our tracks here, we have the best tracks in the entire game. Access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements on the tracks, 12 energy, and 5 card plays with double reclaims. Actually, it's more than 5. What am I talking about? This is 6 elements. We have the extra any here. So looking at, well, before we look at the Innates, you do have the best tracks in the entire game, but you're only placing 1 presence a turn. So maximizing that is going to be fairly challenging. You do have, I believe it's 7 turns. Yes, so it's 7 turns before you unlock. And as I have mentioned in previous videos, most games end around turn 6, 7. So if played properly, you'll never actually maximize and reach 6 energy or 4 card plays. Usually the game will be over by then. Looking at the 2 Innates, we have Serpent Wakes in Power and Serpent Rouses in Anger. Wakes in Power is going to be an innate support power. The first tier, it's going to give you an energy, and it also will give energy to every spirit that you use to absorb essence on. The second tier allows you to proliferate, and then spirits with 2 absorb presence also get to proliferate. And finally, the final tier lets you get a major power without forgetting, and other spirits with 3 absorb presence may also do otherwise. This final tier very rarely occurs until you reach I guess this side here. And the reason for that is because you need that 3 earth and you're only limited to 2 card plays. So unless you, I think you need, is it 2 perfect element cards? You might be able to get it a little bit earlier, but you'll have to draft like Gift of Power, basically the perfect element ones. So there it is. See that water, earth, and plant. I think you can. Let me see. You'd have to play this plus an earth plant card and uncover the any. Yeah, and then you'd be able to do it, which is going to be very, very challenging. That's assuming you hit this build here. But yeah, most of the time you won't proliferate unless you've maxed out and you've reached this earth spot, or someone is giving you elements like a memory or an elemental boon, stuff like that. Right innate is going to allow you to do damage to buildings, also lets you push buildings and generate fear. This final threshold here, this just doesn't exist. It's quite bad. I don't really know what else to say about it. Looking at the uniques here, the first one is Absorb Essence. It's 2 energy fast, Moonfire, Water, Earth, target another spirit. Serpent gains 3 energy. That target spirit, you take 1 of their presence and you place it on the Deep Slumber track. As I showed earlier, you would place it right here. And that spirit gains an energy and gains an any element. Now, what's really cool about Absorb Essence is it's going to enable those spirits. Well, they get an immediate benefit. They also will then get benefits later in the game via this left innate, and absorb essence buffers our elemental Aegis. And Aegis is a fast power 1 energy, fire, water, earth, 0 range, defend 2 in target land and all adjacent lands for every presence on your deep slumber track. Defend 1 in target land and all adjacent lands. So the more absorb essence you have over here, stronger your Aegis is going to become. And even if you've maxed this out, let's say you've absorbed 6 people, you can still continue to absorb other players, and that will continuously increase this elemental Aegis. Looking at our other two uniques, we have Gift of Primordial Deep, which is a 1 energy moon earth, and also Gift of Flowing Power, which is a 1 energy fire water. And Primordial is going to allow another spirit to gain a minor power, and then they can play it, or they can gain elements. And Flowing Power gives another spirit an energy and allows them to play a card, or they can gain fire water. So these are your two powerful utility effects. Absorb Essence is also utility, and then Aegis is a very strong defend. Now, I don't play much Serpent, and that's because I find the spirit to be very, very boring, and that's because a lot of times, I can just set up correctly, a lot of times doing this, every turn happens to be extremely powerful, and the idea is Absorb Essence is always buffering your elemental Aegis, which is increasing your defensive ability over here. You're also supporting the team, and you're hitting that right innate. So as you can see, you have your 2 fire, 2 earth, which means you're going to be doing 2 damage to buildings, killing a town, and then you'll also be pushing a town out and generating fear. So you're generating a lot of value here, and you're supporting the team like this. And once you uncover the any, you then can get a plant here, and that plant enables the left innate, or you can get an earth, which now allows you to kill cities via that right innate. So, unfortunately, this reclaim loop kind of kills the spirit for me, just because it's just so favorable. Now, is this spirit for you? Snake is extremely supportive. This is the spirit that you're going to play if you like being that that support, that teammate role, where a lot of your early game is going to be playing Primordial, Absorb, helping other players out, and then using your defend to cover the most amount of lands for that defend. So looking at this board here, I'm looking at different defensive options. Like a good spot would be here on this H8, such that I can defend these 3 wetlands. And this is your whole game is looking on the board, trying to find the land that has the most same terrain adjacencies, and then do a big defend. And most of the time, you can defend 3 lands. Like here, we have jungle, we have the wetlands up here, we have the sands here with these 3. Sometimes you can get 4 or 5, depending on the board layout, but that's more of an exception than the rule. Oh, and here's the mountain. So you pretty much have your mountain, you have your sand, your wetlands, and your jungle. Now, the Nature Incarnate expansion has given Snake a new aspect. And this aspect, I think, is one of the coolest aspects in the entire game. And it's called Locus. Now, Locus is going to replace that left innate here. You're going to lose that silly Elemental Aegis card. And you're going to gain a unique Pull Beneath. Pull Beneath is a slow power, 1 energy, moon, water, earth. If target land has your presence, 1 fear, 1 damage. If the land is sands, wetland, another damage. You will be an Incarnate Spirit, and you get a right innate. I believe. Right, I think they both replace. I guess this replaces Awaken Power. And this gives you an extra special rule. Doesn't exactly matter. Okay, so what does Locus do? So first, it's going to start the spirit with a proliferate. So this Karna is going to start on your board as well as one of your presence. The spirits with absorbed presence can use your presence at Incarna for targeting. The Incarnate doesn't count towards your deep slumber track limit. That's over here. It says after uncovering the earth, the Incarnate empowers, and when it empowers, it becomes a permanent Badlands. And then you have a bonus, add or move the Incarnate to any of your lands with presence, and you get to do this every turn. Now, really what makes this aspect really fun is it's the left innate here. It's the Locus innate. The first tier It says after a spirit uses a land targeting power card, they may repeat it at the Incarnate by paying its power cost. Serpent may help pay some or all of that cost. So a good example, and this is the skill ceiling on Serpent is very, very high. So like if I'm playing, let's say I'm doing, what's a good example? Let's do Relentless Gaze here. And Relentless Gaze is playing Blinding Glare, which is essentially a Ravage skip. If Serpent has absorbed, we've played absorbed once on Relentless Gaze. Now, every turn that Gaze uses a land targeting power, I can choose to repeat that power, assuming I hit this first threshold, by paying its cost, or Gaze can, but most of the time Serpent just pays for the cost. So if Relentless Gaze is playing this Blinding Glare, well now, my Incarnate gets a skip. So very, very powerful. The second threshold, it says add a Vitality at the Incarnate. If a spirit has at least 2 or more absorbed presence, you may instead add a Vitality in one of their lands without Vitality. So this is a way for you to add Vitality to stop Blight. Now, unfortunately, you do lose that left innate. So spirits that get absorbed, so previously with the other version of Serpent, whenever they would absorb another spirit, that spirit would generate benefits later in the game. Now, with Locus, they only get that initial benefit, that initial energy, that initial free any. The rest of the game, they're never really going to be getting a permanent bonus. Only you get that permanent bonus, and that's with this Strength of the Waking Serpent. Overall, I think Locus is a exceptional aspect. I think this is the only way to play Serpent moving forward. Not in terms of power, but more in terms of balance and fun. I think the whole plan of Reclaim Looping, Absorb Essence, plus Elemental Aegis just gets extremely old, very boring to play, and most of the time it's the most optimal way to play base Serpent. Now, is Locus for you? This is, I would say, it probably increases the defense a little bit. It's definitely going to decrease the utility, and it's going to increase the complexity quite a lot. If you like this video, like, subscribe for more content. I will see you guys in the next video.